Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. In this tropical weather update, we will be discussing in great detail on Invest 94L as this could become a tropical storm over the Bahamas, perhaps the Turks and Caicos Islands, in the next 3 to 5 days as this moves generally northwestward towards the coast of Florida, while we're also keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Humberto as the National Hurricane Center has named this one this afternoon and is also a threat to Bermuda in the next 5 to 10 days. So in this update, we'll be breaking down these two systems with great precision detail. But of course, if you haven't been here before and you do find these tropical weather outlook and discussions very helpful, detailed, informative, and life-saving, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification icon to get daily tropical weather discussions here on the channel. Also, please hit the like button and share this video with their family and friends on social media. So with that being said, here's a look at the tropical Atlantic here for this afternoon and evening on the GOES 19 True Color Visible Satellite Imagery here provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com. And we're going to talk mostly about 94L as it's now an immediate threat to Puerto Rico, the U.S. British Virgin Islands, and Hispaniola this afternoon and evening throughout perhaps most of the day tomorrow, as this is bringing a lot of rain and a lot of strong winds. And then we'll be talking about both Tropical Storm Humberto and Invest 94L once we take a look here at the National Hurricane Center and the global computer models and their ensembles as well, because both of these storm systems could have a big impact somewhere on a piece of land, such as Bermuda or the Turks and Caicos Islands of the Bahamas or the eastern seaboard of the United States. Here's a closer zoomed in view on Invest 94L this evening as the sun is now setting over Puerto Rico, the U.S. British Virgin Islands, and the northeastern Caribbean, and we are keeping a very close watch on 94L this evening, as we can see here that the wave pocket is starting to show signs of slight organization here, because we do have northeasterly winds here, we have easterly winds up here, and then we have southeasterly winds over here over some of the windward islands, indicating to me that this wave pocket is getting a little bit more well defined and a little bit sharper, indicating that vorticity with all this convection is trying to wrap around the wave axis to the north and helping to lead to some consolidation of a low pressure center that is trying to develop here, as you can see from the surface cloud motions, indicating that a low is forming right now to the southwest of Puerto Rico at this given time. Here's another visualization on what the storm actually looks like based on the Puerto Rico radar site. You can see a lot of thunderstorms, lots of lightning activity, and strong winds are occurring with this system. And it does appear that there's even a mid-level vortex spinner down here to the south of Puerto Rico, with the low-level spinner likely somewhere over here to the southwest of Puerto Rico, indicating there is some tilt with the vortex with height here, and this is to be expected as this is trying to get better defined. So as it stands right now, this is starting to show signs of some slight organization with 94L this evening across southern Puerto Rico, and some of these heavy rain bands here are capable of producing some water spouts, strong winds, and even some flooding as well, including some landslides over the mainland here of Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands as well. Now, of course, as I did briefly discuss on the visible satellite imagery, how there is a little bit of vertical wind shear with this system. That appears to be the case here according to the mid-level water vapor imagery, indicating that there is a lot of dry air to the southwest of 94L at this time. But a lot of that dry air may not be impacting the circulation a whole lot or the wave pocket immediately right now, as we are starting to see a little bit of cirrus outflow here in the water vapor imagery, indicating that there is some diffluence aloft at around 200 millibars or about 38,000 feet above the surface. But there is a little bit of vertical wind shear underneath that outflow at around about 15 to 20 knots, enough to tilt the vortex or whatever formative circulation we're trying to get out of this system as we speak. Now, since we briefly talked about 94L on the satellite perspective, let's briefly talk about Humberto right here on the visible satellite. And you can see Humberto is a lot more organized, as you see here, with that surface spinner just to the southwest of all this deep convection right before the sun sets. There's not a whole lot of lightning activity with this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of cloud-to-cloud lightning activity on the northeastern quadrant of Humberto's circulation, as you can see here. Again, right before the sun sets, you can see that very well-defined swirl. But as you know, Humberto is getting a little bit of westerly vertical wind shear, just like 94L is. It's all thanks to this TUT, this upper-level tropospheric trough that is located to the northwest of both of these systems, and that's helping to encroach westerly flow in the upper levels over both of these systems. So as it stands right now, while Humberto has winds of 40 miles an hour, it lacks a lot of organization to meet the criteria of a much stronger tropical storm. That is winds 65, 70 miles an hour. And so right now, Humberto is not in the immediate vicinity of rapidly intensifying right now, but it will soon do so once it gets away from this vertical wind shear from the westerly direction. So here's a look at the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. And of course, we have Gabrielle out there that has winds of 100 miles an hour, likely below a Category 2 hurricane, as this continues to weaken as it moves generally towards the east at almost 30 miles an hour towards the Azores Islands, where there's a hurricane warning in effect. So please take this seriously if you are watching this from the Azores Islands, as this is going to be a pretty strong hurricane for those islands. While we're also keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Humberto down here in the deep tropics, with winds that are up to 40 miles an hour and central pressure down to 1,008 millibars, this is moving to the west-northwest at 15 miles per hour. So 2 named storms right now currently ongoing. We're about to get a third named storm here probably within the next 2 to 3 days, or even in the next 4 or 5 days, as this tries to develop over the Turks and Caicos and the Bahama Islands in that time frame. This area of disturbed weather, Invest 94L, has a 30% chance of developing in the next 2 days and a 80% chance of developing in the next 7 days. So yes, a 30-80% on this, a high likelihood that this is going to become our next named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. So now, with that being said, the big question that is on everybody's minds in this afternoon's update is, will we get Tropical Storm Humberto impacting the far eastern United States like Cape Hatteras or the small island of Bermuda in the next 10 days? And also, will Invest 94L become our next tropical storm, if not even a hurricane, over the Bahama Islands, including potentially for Florida and the Carolinas in the next 10 days? With that being said, let's dive straight into our global computer deterministic models, including our AI models and their ensembles, because there is a lot of uncertainty on exactly how this is going to actually play out, because we could have a Fujiwara effect with both of these tropical systems as they develop, and some models don't indicate that. So with that being said, here's a look at the latest 12Z European model forecast for the 850 millibar layer, 5,000 feet above the surface at the cyclonic relative vorticity. And you can see there is Humberto right there with 40-mile-an-hour winds. Now, as we put this into motion through Friday morning, September 26, 2025, in the next couple of days here on the Euro, we can see Humberto really getting its act together very quickly here, well to the southeast of Bermuda. So Bermuda not impacted by this yet, as this is going to build up a lot of energy, lots of high surf, lots of swells intimating away from Humberto as this really begins to get its act together. While we're also again keeping an eye on Invest 94L very closely, because guess who lives what? A lot of people live here throughout the Turks and Caicos Islands of the Bahamas, Great Albacoa up here in the northern Bahamas. People live there, very pretty touristy location for a lot of vacationing that takes place, and anyone in Florida needs to be paying very close attention to 94L very closely too. All right, so let's put this into motion even further into the weekend, because yes, Humberto is really going to get even more intense than what it already is. So in about day 3, by Saturday morning, the 27th of September, we can see Humberto more than likely going to be a hurricane at this time with winds of about 75 to 85 miles an hour. So definitely strengthening up pretty quickly there, while we're also again keeping a very close eye on 94L as it approaches the Turks and Caicos Islands for the latter or the early part of the weekend of Saturday, departing Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, by that time frame. Now, going into the latter part of the weekend, into Sunday afternoon, into Sunday evening, this is when all hell will break loose potentially. And I don't like to use the word hell in my videos, but this is when things get really concerning and a lot of uncertainty also exists with the models, such as that Humberto here could be a major hurricane with winds of 115 miles per hour in about 4 to 5 days. Yeah, another major hurricane. The fourth major hurricane of the Atlantic, the third major hurricane of the Atlantic hurricane season, because we had Aaron, then we had Gabrielle, now we have Humberto as a major hurricane. So the third one, believe it or not, here for this Atlantic hurricane season. And while we're keeping an eye on that system, we're also, again, going to really need to pay close attention to what happens with 94L. And this continues to be a really big problem. Look at that spot there. That's pure black, indicating very strong winds, tight gradient within that system with Humberto. And then here comes the next system here in a little over 5 days out, maybe even 6 days out. By Tuesday next week on the 30th of September, 94L goes out to sea, and a lot of people are going to think that, oh, good, it's going out to sea. It looks like it's going to pinwheel around Humberto. That's not a saving grace situation, because look what ends up happening here. This is where a lot of the uncertainty will exist. Here's a look at day 7 for Wednesday morning on the 1st of October. If I go back and look at the 0Z run from last night, we can see that the systems were definitely a lot further apart than they were on this model run. You can see just a clear difference 7 days out from this point forward. So if we, again, based on today's model guidance, we look at 7 days from into the future, this is what we get. And you can see each model run is completely different here. There is no consistency that, okay, that system's going to be there. This other system, 94L, is going to be here. We don't know for sure where 94L is going to get once it gets up into this area. All we know is that southeastern Bahamas needs to be watching this system very closely for significant development. And then look what happens. Just after day 8, day 9, and then day 10, look what happens. This actually gets slingshotted and drifts back towards the coast. That is clearly why I don't go beyond 10 days out, because I will tell you what right now, a little bit of a spoiler alert, the Euro wants this system hitting Cape Hatteras in about 12 or 13 days, which again is extremely uncertain right now. We don't know for a 100% certain that it's going to hit that area. But what we do know that a system existing somewhere in this area is a very likelihood scenario within 10 days based on what we're seeing right now. Looking at the artificial intelligence model, we can see there's Humberto there. Here is 94L. So yes, the AI model is picking up significant development with 94L as it moves into Great Abaco Island there in the Bahamas, as well as the far western Atlantic here along the eastern seaboard of Florida, the southeastern coast of the Carolinas. And then look what happens. Those two systems moves out. But guess what? Bermuda could get a 1-2 punch potentially with Humberto and then with 94L before all things calm down temporarily. Now let's take a look here at the Canadian model, because yes, the Canadian model thinks something very different than what the AI and then what the Euro is actually showing. All right, so over the next 3 days here, you can see Saturday morning, keep that in mind, Saturday morning, September 27th, once again, there is Humberto and there is 94L. And the Canadian model shows a little bit more significant development here across the southeastern Bahamas, like the Turks and Caicos. Okay. And then by Saturday or Sunday morning, the 28th of September, we end up seeing a bona fide tropical storm somewhere in the middle of the Bahama Islands by Sunday morning, the 28th. And then look what happens. See, so we end up seeing 2 potential hurricanes here in about 5 days. This would be for Monday morning next week on the 29th of September. Humberto, for one thing, will be a very strong hurricane, probably in the echelon of a Category 3 or even potentially a Category 4 because of how consistent the models have been, as well as our artificial intelligence ensemble models. So there is pretty good agreement that Humberto is going to become our next monster out there in the Atlantic. But how close does this get to the eastern United States will be, there's a lot of uncertainty. All right, and as we go out to 10 days, you can see, again, Bermuda getting hit with 94L eventually, if that even actually happens. So, yes, a little bit of a close call with these 2 systems coming very close to the Carolina coast in about the day 5 to day 7 time frame. The last model that I wanted to show you all is the Icon model or the Germany model. And as we put this into motion too, you can see a very different scenario with the Icon model. Actually, let's zoom in a little closer. You can see there's Humberto right there, and here is 94L, okay? That is why we cannot focus just on one model and say, oh, most of the guidance, David, has this going offshore. I do agree that with that more than what the Icon is showing, but there's that realm of possibilities that we don't know. How close is this going to get to Florida? Where does it make that turn? Is it a lot closer with 94L to the eastern seaboard, or is this going to be a lot further offshore? We don't know the answer because of this binary interaction. These 2 systems are close enough to where they could interact with one another. Maybe 94L becomes a more dominant feature and this slingshots Humberto more kind of this way, while also we're keeping an eye on 94L going out to sea like this. We don't know just yet. Now the big question is, how strong will Tropical Storm Humberto actually get? Well, there's pretty good confidence right now that this will become a hurricane in about 3 days, as you can see from most of the intensity guidance. And some of the models, like some of the hurricane models, predicting a high-end Category 3 and a low-end Category 4 hurricane, which is in the realm of possibility. Therefore, my intensity forecast is with the NHCs, and if not even a little bit higher here, predicting, or I'm at least predicting, Humberto to become a 120-mile-an-hour hurricane in about 4 to 5 days. So yes, Humberto, in my opinion, has a run at making major hurricane status in around that time frame. Now, what is a spaghetti plot looking ahead at Tropical Storm Humberto on where it's headed from here? Well, there's a lot of uncertainty in the modeling right now, so please don't focus on this and assume that, oh, it's going to miss Bermuda completely. Oh, it's not going to hit the United States. We don't know yet, all right? And there is still a decent air here out to 5 days that this could, in theory, go pretty far to the west, or this can turn pretty far to the east and strike Bermuda directly in about 5 to 6 days. We don't know yet exactly where Humberto is going to get in relation to how close this is going to get to Bermuda. Please keep this in mind and do not use this map to make decisions. Please seek official info from the National Hurricane Center with their track forecast guidance. But the main thing that is on everybody's mind at this point is how close and how strong will Invest 94L get to Florida and the Bahamas here. While it's more than likely going to impact the Bahamas at this point, that's more than likely going to happen, but how strong will it get? Right now, most of the model guidance has this becoming a tropical storm with winds between 40 to 65 to 70 miles an hour in the next 4 to 5 days. But there are some outliers here from our hurricane models that do bring this to Category 1 to Category 2 intensity. And it is a possibility that that could actually happen, given the fact that if this actually develops a little bit more better circulation, there's a little more moisture, lesser vertical wind shear to work with. 94L could make a run at being at least a named storm with winds that are at least tropical storm intensity. So therefore, my intensity forecast is pretty much down the very middle of most of the intensity guidance here. And I do expect that this storm, that 94L, will become a tropical storm in the next 3 to 4 days with winds of about 40 miles an hour, with winds maxing out right now at day 5 at around 55 to 65 miles an hour, making 94L a high-end echelon tropical storm at this given time. And the hurricane models right now are too aggressive with this system for the time being. Now, where is Invest 94L going to be impacting, and how close will it get to Florida? Well, this one is going to be a lot further west than what Humberto is going to be dealing with right now. You can see, yep, there are the Turks and Caicos and the Bahama Islands, and look at all the spaghetti plots moving over the Bahama Islands. So regardless of development with 94L, very heavy rainfall, flooding, and some high surf is expected with 94L, regardless of how strong this actually gets. Don't focus most on the intensity because it's not going to matter. This is going to have a lot of rainfall, thunderstorms, water spouts to work with. And yes, water spouts can kill people and can destroy property. Keep that in mind, all right? Because yes, people want to focus on the intensity and think, oh, it's only a 35 or 40 mile an hour system. Not a big deal, right? Well, you got to think about the rainfall. You got to think about water spouts, the flooding on these islands. Yes, you name it, and very warm sea surface temperatures, and anything with this could actually happen given how warm the sea surface temperatures actually are. So for right now, most of the models do bring this over the Turks and Caicos Islands and the Bahamas, the northern Bahamas like Great Abaco, in about 5 to 7 days. Now, one other thing that I wanted to show you all is the latest Google DeepMind AI Ensamble models here going pretty dang aggressive, especially on Tropical Storm Humberto here. Pretty much all of the members here that run the Google DeepMind Ensemble here indicating a major hurricane with winds that are greater than 100 knots or 115 miles per hour. Some members even predicting a Category 5 on Humberto, which is not out of the question given on how much warmer the sea surface temperatures are relative to average here in this part of the Atlantic. So yeah, we're really going to need to watch Humberto very closely in days to come. We're also going to, again, need to watch with what the ensemble model trends are like on 94L. They are still trending pretty aggressive here for a potential strong tropical storm or a low-grade hurricane here somewhere in the northern part of the Bahamas here, as you can see, with all of the orange, red, and pink colors indicating strong tropical storm intensities all the way up to a low to medium grade hurricane in the next 4 to 6 days. So we really need to watch this, and you can see the spread here. Some members do bring this into the coast of the Carolinas, Georgia, and even Florida in about 7 to 8 days, while other members here turn this out to sea and impact Bermuda in about 7 to 8 days. So there's a lot of uncertainty with 94L as it stands for right now. The Google DeepMind generation model is even a little bit more concerning, but not as aggressive as the FNV3 model, showing more members here bringing tropical storm to hurricane conditions potentially to Florida, the Carolina coast, as well as Georgia in about 7 to 10 days, whereas Humberto here comes a lot further to the west with some of its ensembles here. You can see the envelope here pretty close. Even some of the members here on shore from Humberto over the Cape Hatteras coast, all the way to the east here, well east of Bermuda. So there is a huge cone of uncertainty here with how close Humberto will get to the Carolina coast over the next 10 days. Now, looking at the European ensemble, there's also some members that do bring this a bit close. You can see some westerly, most members here bring this pretty close, again, to Cape Hatteras in about 7 to 10 days, whereas other members bring this pretty far to the east of Bermuda in about that 10-day time frame, while, again, keeping an eye on 94L, with some members still putting this on shore in about 7 to 8 days over the Carolina coast. So, yes, everyone needs to be watching 94L very closely and Humberto, because these two can do crazy stuff. With that being said, I am going to keep you all updated here, and live streaming discussions will be initiated if necessary, especially if model trends continue to get more aggressive on 94L, because this system right now is my most concerning aspect to this forecast right now, as this is going to be threatening a lot of population areas such as the Turks and Caicos Islands of the Bahamas over the next 3 to 5 days, while also keeping a very close watch on Tropical Storm Humberto. With it being 40-mile-an-hour winds right now, that is likely to become a hurricane in about 3 days. But anyways, if you did find today's tropical weather outlook and discussion very helpful, detailed, and informative, and you haven't been here before, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that like button, and also please hit the bell notification icon to get daily tropical weather updates, and leave a comment in the section below this video. As always, have a great rest of your guys' Wednesday afternoon and evening here on the 24th of September, 2025. I'll have another tropical weather outlook and discussion out tomorrow, followed potentially by a live streaming discussion if necessary on 94L, as it remains a threat.